just I'm just trying to show you guys. Do you understand the how low level this pop apologetics is? And this is what holds people into that in that religion. This low level stuff, this lazy, low level stuff that's been refuted by people in his own church. Just the astounding ignorance of Dr. Scott Hahn to his own Roman Catholic
is he not aware of, sort of the basic approaches to solving issues at the ecumenical councils? I mean, who does Scott Hahn think came to the council, right? Who came to Nicaea? Cardinals? I mean, what does he think? Does he not realize that it was patriarchates from various national churches? The Patriarch of Alexandria, the Patriarch of Antioch, the Patriarch of Armenia, or excuse me, not Armenia, but the bishops of Armenia, the bishops of various national churches, I should say, right, would be coming to these early councils, right? What does that have to do with the later medieval Roman Catholic structure of ecumenical councils, which become basically a purely papal phenomenon with the later rise of the cardinalate? Right. Again, totally different structure from the structure of the church in the first 1,000 years. Right. Another example, in the ecumenical councils, it does not require the papacy to create bishops. Well, after the schism, after the first millennium, the Pope decides, no, I will confirm every bishop in the world. Again, a massive innovation, you see. Right. Well, and what's the Roman Catholic justification? Oh, well, it's the Pope. He can make innovations, right? Because he is the living expositor and living interpreter of tradition. Well, again, why didn't this exist prior to that? Oh, well, you see, it evolved. Oh, it evolved? If it evolved, then how does Leo the 13th and Vatican I argue that this was always the church's view? Oh, because it was. You see, this two different, these are mutually exclusive arguments. You can't argue with Leo the 13th, as Satis Cognitum does, as Pastor Aeternus does, that of Pius IX, that the primacy, universality, Petrine, charism, all of these gifts to Rome, they were always present from the earliest days of the church. That's what those documents say. Then, however, in order to bolster this flimsy position, they brought out Cardinal Newman's evolution of doctrine view, evolution of dogma. Well, you see, it was a seed, and it grew into a giant tree. So these are two mutually exclusive arguments. Which one is it? Because if it's from the earliest days, then they're on the horns of a dilemma. They have to show and demonstrate the extreme views of Vatican I present in the first 1,000 years. The outlandish claims, right? But again, as we've seen so many times over and over and over, these people haven't even read Vatican I. They're not even clear on what Vatican I actually says. That it actually says that the Pope is also infallible in his universal ordinary teaching as well as his extraordinary teaching. Now, last little bit here on Filioque, which is just extremely embarrassing for Dr. Hahn. And I mean, anybody who's aware, I mean, this is the top apologist, okay, for the Roman Catholic Church. So let's get this clear.
And it just struck me that when I went to a Greek Orthodox church, it was more Greek than I could be.
That's not the Filioque part.
So they thought this was a way to support the divinity of Christ. It was a
right. The Orthodox are right on that, but
it's one of my
this admission from Matt Fred. This is a funny admission from old Matt Fred here.
Favorite discoveries.
Yeah.
That if
so
you
just for people at home, the Filioque was something inserted by the church after the Council of Nicaea.
That's
so
right.
The Orthodox are right.
No, it was not inserted by the church. It was inserted by the Frankists and the Carolinian theologians, and then it was evangelized in Orthodox countries. And the papacy at the time opposed it. These people don't know this. This is well known. Okay, famous Uniate scholar Francis Dvornik has vindicated the Orthodox view of this. People not aware of this? I mean, this is their own Uniate scholarship. But you see, Roman Catholicism is whatever it needs to be at the time.
And I think that the real strength of Roman Catholicism is that it's anything and everything. Do you want it to be a religion of medieval knights and crusaders valiantly going to war against the Sultan? Okay, you can imagine it as that in your head. Do you want it to be the one world religion of Pope Francis and the Abrahamic Faith Center, where all the Abrahamic faiths can come together and worship the same God, a la Vatican II and Nostra Aetate? You can have it be that as well. You see, you can pray in the mosques, like the last two popes have done openly towards Mecca, or you can be a crusading knight against Islam in the world of Roman Catholicism, because it is a double think religion. It's full of this. It's full of the contradictions, right? It's full of the dialectical opposition. And I think that the reason some of these people they're half insane, a lot of them. I'm not mad at the Roman Catholics, but the way that they act, the way they act so just unhinged, right, is because of this religion being so fundamentally incoherent. And every day they're faced with it. Every day they're faced with some new radical scandal that Francis does. And the answer to this is just always hand wave it and say, well, it's not ex cathedra. It's not ex cathedra. I don't have to worry about it because it's not ex cathedra. But that's not actually what Vatican I says. You don't get to hand wave all the ordinary and universal ordinary teaching of the papacy. In fact, the non-infallible ordinary teaching you have to submit to with docility, as Catholic moral theology says, as Vatican I says. In fact, even the decisions of the Roman colleges, even the decisions of the Holy Office, anything approved by the papal see, you must submit to with docility, even if you think it's wrong. And yet, how many, a giant schism within the Roman Catholic Church now, right, believes Francis is heterodox. Okay, well, let's set aside infallibility for the moment. What about Vatican I's teaching about the indefectibility of the Roman See, that the Roman See cannot defect from the faith? Okay, you can't separate the see, by the way, from the person who sits in the see. Are you aware of this? Okay, this is also a Vatican I idea. Okay, you can't remove the fundamental elements of what makes up the Roman See from the chair over in Rome. Okay, like the Sedevacantists do. Oh, I follow the seat of Rome, not the see of Rome in my head, right? The Platonic idea of the seat of Rome. I don't actually follow the one over in Rome, because that one's apostate. Okay, that's, again, Vatican I says that's ridiculous. Et si multa, the very argument that Sedevacantists make, is the exact same argument that the old Catholics made. And et si multa is written against the old Catholics, and the exact same principles that refute the old Catholics refute the Sedevacantists. But now, wait a minute, does that mean that the answer is to follow Francis? Well, but it looks like the Sedevacantists actually have a point, because it actually looks like, and the SSPX and all the trads, kind of looks like Francis isn't Catholic, isn't Orthodox in any sense of the word. So now we're on the horns of a dilemma between being a trad, SSPX, neo-Catholic, whatever you want to call it. But let's listen to this part, because then we're going to move to the Trent video. This is all I wanted to get to with this, because this is, again, I'm just trying to show you guys, do you understand how low level this pop apologetics is? And this is what holds people in that religion, this low level stuff, this lazy, low level stuff that's been refuted by people in his own church. Just the astounding ignorance of Dr. Scott Hahn to his own Roman Catholic theologians, like Father Francis Dvorak, the great Uniate scholar. The Vatican clarification on the Filioque. Has he not even read that? I mean, it's kind of astounding.
On that. But your point is that the Orthodox are wrong to deny that the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father and the Son.
That's right. I mean,
yeah.
In the 7th century and beyond, you have a semi-Arian heresy spreading in the West, mostly in Spain, that the Church in the West has to respond to, and so the Bishop of Rome does by inserting the Filioque, so that the full divinity of the Holy Spirit is affirmed more explicitly.
So he got it all wrong. I don't think he says he's very interested in this topic, but he got it all wrong. First of all,
how can he be interested in this topic and not be aware of the basic argumentation in any of the scholarly literature on this? Right? Like, I mean, there's no awareness, right? I mean, the Phocian Schism by Father Dvorak,
Szyszynski's Filioque book, I mean, and 100 other books. I mean, at least even, I mean, they have again, Roman Catholics have rehabilitated Photius. So I'm supposed to believe, if I'm a Roman Catholic, if I'm a Uniate, I can believe that St. Photius is a saint somehow, even though he was condemned for centuries. Now he's a saint. They reversed their position on this. Do you not see that that alone refutes this whole thing? All of the Roman Catholic position is refuted just on this point, right there. How is this not obvious to you people? I don't get it. It baffles me. It's not a difficult argument. You can have the reversal of someone being a heretic for centuries. Now they're considered a saint. But I guess it does actually make sense if the religion just is papalism, right? It's whatever the papacy says at that moment. That actually does make sense. And that actually is consistent with dogmatic evolution. If the dogmas evolve, then I guess the Pope is the apex of the religion. I guess Photius can be a heretic for centuries and now be rehabilitated as a saint, even though the whole logic of this argumentation is that the Filioque is satanic, just as St. Gregory Palamas's apodictic treatise on the Holy Spirit argues that Rome is satanic. But now he's also a saint in the Roman Catholic Communion, you see. Unless you want to be a trad, and then you can pick and choose and reject Photius and Palamas as saints, which they do. But again, let's not go too deep into that, because remember, this is a consistent religion.
The Bishop of Rome did not insert it until the 11th century, the beginning of the 11th century. It had been inserted in the West in places around Rome, but Rome resisted it and didn't want to bring it in and have it official.
I mean, Scott Hahn isn't even aware of the fact that the papacy resisted adding the Filioque to the creed. Who doesn't know this? I mean, again, modern Roman Catholic scholarship has admitted this. Dvornik's books. Szyszynski, who was Roman Catholic, now Orthodox, the leading scholar on this.
Be a part and to confess it. In fact, they were with the Council of the Eighth Ecumenical Council, which we talked about earlier in this podcast. So he got that all wrong. And furthermore, they didn't put it in to show the divinity of the Holy Spirit, but the divinity of Christ.
Yeah, the argument was that if Christ sends the Holy Spirit, then he's equally divine with the Father. And actually, in terms of economia, that's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, but that has nothing to do with the intra-Trinitarian relationship of the persons and the hypostatic origin of the Father, or excuse me, of the Spirit from the Father alone. There's this dumb argument that the Holy Spirit requires the Son, right? I mean, okay, so who was required other than the Father to generate the Son? Didn't the Father generate the Son whole and entire? Okay, so we don't need another person for the generation of a person. Okay, we don't need two to have the generation. Excuse me, the spiration of the Spirit. So likewise, if the Father can generate the Son whole and entire, there's no lack, there's no diminution, there's no subordination by teaching that the Father can spirate the Spirit whole and entire without the Son as a co-source. And also this disturbs and destroys the entire balance of the Father as the sole cause, which is the decree and teaching of the Second Ecumenical Council. The Cappadocian theology that the Father is the sole cause is accepted at Constantinople I. So not only are they denying the balance of the Trinity, they're actually also rejecting the Cappadocian teaching that the Father is the sole cause.